Okay, before I say anything about Volume 9, there are some very important things I need to get out of the way. Number one, it's almost 2 a.m. I can actually see the fucking bags under my eyes. It's like 1:47 in the morning. I laid me down to sleep. I don't think I quite begged the Lord my soul to keep. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to bed. I'm gonna sleep well. Hopefully, I'll sleep well. When I get up in the morning, I'm gonna have some shit to do. There's gonna be like a meeting at work. I've got some stuff. It'll be all Gucci. And I watched Volume 9 today in its entirety. I didn't quite do it in one sitting, because I think it was about halfway through episode 4. Clay was like, hey, are you hungry? Yeah, I'm getting kind of hungry. What should we do for food? And he brings up that we can go to Whataburger, and if we go, and it's going to close in like 15, 20 minutes, and if we leave now, we might make it for breakfast. And I'm like, oh, I haven't had a honey butter chicken biscuit in a while. And I'm a fat boy, so I'm gonna go get my Hun Bun Chick Bisque and watch more RWBY. So that's the only reason I didn't watch it in one sitting, because I couldn't fucking stop. Boy, I'm gonna talk a lot about it. And no, I don't have notes written down. And I know the last few seasons where that's happened, I haven't exactly been kind to those seasons, but trends are meant to be broken. It's like 1 is an accident, 2 is a trend, 3 is a problem. With this one, it's not a problem. But as I'm sitting trying to go to bed, my brain's just like remembering Volume 9 and some of the stuff I really liked about it, which is most of the fucking season. And a lot of just how it made me feel and how a lot of it resonated with me, because it really, really did. And my brain's like, yeah, you're not gonna go to fucking sleep until you record this, because also you've got enough shit to do tomorrow. You're probably not gonna get this and the Volume 8 video done. So let's go ahead and try to record this while this is the thing you really are thinking about right now. If you're just going to be thinking about the shit you would say in the video and whatnot, you might as well go ahead and get the camera running. Do it. Okay, take the pen out. Second thing to bring up, I haven't done the Volume 8 video yet. I plan on it. I mean, it's not even like I plan on it, maybe. No, I'm gonna do a fucking Volume 8 video. Now I'm not sure if I'll do it before... Sorry, I was just looking at my toe. I'm not gonna get into that. I don't want to get into that at all. Yeah. Anyways, point. I don't know if I'll just release this after I record it. So I don't know. Maybe it'll be like a 4-hour video. Oh god, I hope it's not a 4-hour video. I don't want to be up till like 6 a.m. Oh, fuck. Anyways, I don't know if I'll just upload this as soon as I'm done, and then Volume 8 will come out after, or if I'll wait until I finish the Volume 8 video, then upload it, and then I'll upload the Volume 9, and it'll just be like, yeah, I recorded it before. We'll see. The other thing I want to get out of the way, because I don't know, again, I don't have notes, I don't know exactly what I am going to say in this video, but I want to give a content warning. Because this season did that. Season 8 did it as well. In Season 8, I think there were 3 episodes they gave a content warning. I believe 2 of them were just like, hey, there's going to be a lot of bright fucking lights. Seizure warning, by the way. The finale gave a warning for pure content. It's like, there's going to be some themes of death going on. And oh boy, that was some shit. There were a couple episodes in this season that did too. And, boy, I'm really excited to talk about one of them. But this is a volume that deals heavily with death and suicidal thoughts and suicidal themes. This is a weird thing to say, but hear me out. Some of it is played positively, where, like, in the world of Volume 9, one of the big themes is about death and rebirth, which is very fitting in RWBY because you've got the two brothers, light and darkness, light and destruction. There's a very delicate balance. And the world of Volume 9, The Ever After, is kind of all about that balance. What they call it is ascension. Every being there has a purpose, and when their purpose is completed, they go to the tree. I don't think the tree ever had a name, it's just the tree. So I want to call it Yggdrasil, but it's never actually called that, so I might call it that every now and then, but the tree is where you go and you die, but you're then reborn, reincarnated, not as yourself, but as something similar. A similar purpose, a similar maybe mentality, but not quite the same, so you can still move forward. Like, there's this entire episode about this village of these paper things that want to ascend and pass on and be part of the cycle, but their protector, and we'll get to the protector, doesn't want them to, because let's say it's Jean, who wants so badly to be able to successfully protect someone that he's not going to let this happen to them. And also, he's very distrustful of the tree and shit. So they've been trying to kill themselves for years, but their protector won't let them. And, like, do you remember the fucking Meeseeks episode from Rick and Morty? They're like, oh, Mr. Meeseeks, I just want to die because my purpose is done, but I can't. That's kind of what this is. And it's like, boy, this is weird to watch. Okay. And then there's the shit that we'll get to. So getting into just the basic plot of the season, I don't even want to talk about that. I want to talk about what makes this season so unique, first off, because this is the most un-RWBY of any RWBY season. Did not feel like there were very many fights. There's... Okay, let me actually see what I can remember. There's the fight on the chessboard, which was really fun and super creative, and I loved it. There's a fight against the Jabberwockers, because this is a very Alice in Wonderland themed season, and as you may or may not know, I love Alice in Wonderland themed shit, so I was totally into the Ever After. But there's a fight against the Jabberwockers. I think there's a couple. There's a fight where RWBY fights Neo and a bunch of Neo's, like, illusions, which isn't super, like, a fight, and it's kind of one of those seasons where there's a handful of, like, action scenes, but they're not, like, fights. Like, even the first fight against the Jabberwocker when they're in the kind of, like, lily pad village, it was like a fight. It was okay. And then there's when they're fighting them later in the paper town. It's like, okay, this is actually pretty sick. There's the fight against the cat in the climax, which I think is a pretty good climax. Actually, it's a kind of a... that one's multi-phase. Because it's them fighting the cat in Neo's body, and then it gets out of Neo's body, and they're fully fighting the cat. And then RWBY gets out of her shit, and she has a fight. Okay, there is a kind of decent amount of fights, but while I was watching it, I didn't feel like there were that many. It felt a lot more just about, we're going to focus on the characters, and we're going to focus on their mental states. The next reason why I felt while watching it, this is a very un-RWBY-like season, is how few characters there were. It's Team RWBY, it's Jean, and it's Neo. That's it. There's no Nora, there's no Ren, there's no Crow, thank goodness. There's no Oz, there's no Salem, there's no Cinder, there's no Watts, there's no Tyrion. It's just our core four, their best boy Jean, and Neo. That's it. Now, there are other characters that are new to the Ever After that are like original to season 9. And there's some other characters that appear in flashbacks. But in terms of characters actually like doing shit and driving the plot forward that we're following, it's just them. It's really stripped down. And there's a couple jokes about that. Well, there's one joke about that where the cat is like, man, that's a lot of people to keep track of. And then there's also another meta joke where I think he's talking about Weiss specifically. It's like, man, I don't remember exactly what he says, but he kind of makes fun of the voice acting in the show. He's like, yeah, you know, some of the voices leave a lot to be inspired, especially you, Weiss. Which, I have to actually address the voice acting in this season, because I don't feel like I bring it up a whole lot. Every now and then I'm like, oh, it was a performance that was pretty good. Or I was like, that was a line. Or like, this character I think is good. I think the voice acting in season 9 from our main cast is like really good. Ruby in particular. I've said before, I can understand why some people don't like her voice. Like, it is very high-pitched. It is very chipper and optimistic. I can see why someone would find it annoying or why someone would find it grating. For me, there's 2 parts in the show where I don't like it. Number 1 is at the end of the Yellow trailer, which is the first time you hear Ruby talk, and I was very much like, huh, oh, that's what she sounds like. Okay, I don't know if I hate it, I just wasn't expecting it, and I feel like it's really high-pitched there, and I didn't like her performance in season 4. Mostly just because Ruby doesn't really have anything to do in season 4, despite not only being the main character, but her plot line being the one that's driving the plot forward. But even still, it's like, okay, here's the members of Team Juniper really dealing with a lot of emotional trauma. Jean dealing with the loss of Pyrrha. Nora and Ren being reminded of the village that they lost and the families that they lost. This is big shit. Hey, Ruby, do you want to talk about how you've lost your team and your kind of fractured relationship with your sister right now because she's not in a good place, and how, like your personal teammate in Weiss is just gone, or the fact that Blake left and isn't writing any of you and you don't know where the fuck one of your teammates is at all? Oh, you're not going to talk about that? Okay. She just doesn't get to do anything interesting or say anything interesting. And any time she was trying to tell a joke, they just never landed for me. I was like, this is the only time I've actually found her voice acting annoying. I've talked about how much I don't like her in the second half of season 6 and throughout season 7. And I feel like in volume 8, she's mostly fine. But I don't think that's on the voice acting. I actually think her voice acting is kind of the only thing saving her in season 6 and 7. Because I'm like, man, I don't like the way your character is being written. Your voice actor's almost selling it, though. Like, but not quite. And that's not on her. That is purely on the writing. But in season 9, she kills it. I feel so invested in Ruby Rose in this season. And given all the shit I said in season 6 and 7, I really wasn't expecting that. I remember a few times watching while watching season 9 and thinking, would this season be anywhere near as good if those other 2 seasons weren't so bad? Or if her character specifically... Hey, you trying to sit on my lap, bud? You just wanted to be giving me a kiss. I love you too, bub. You want to keep sitting with me? You want to cuddle with me while I talk about Volume 9? I think he does. Maybe he's also just tired. It is, at this point, it's probably past 2 a.m. Where was I? Voice acting is really good. I don't know if Season 9 would be as good, or if RWBY in Season 9 would be as good if she wasn't so bad in the previous 2.5 seasons. Earlier this year, I finished Final Fantasy IX. What do you know, 9 and 9. And I made a video about it, and I talked about why I didn't love it. There's a lot of things in Final Fantasy IX that I think are phenomenal. There's a decent handful of things, though, that for me didn't quite work. And one of those moments, unfortunately, is the "You Are Not Alone" Zidane moment. To give you some context on it, and full spoilers for Final Fantasy IX as well. Zidane, like RWBY, again the character, not the team or the show, is kind of the glue of the party. The one person who... Zidane isn't necessarily the leader. I would still say that's Garnet, although RWBY is the leader of the team. This is the person that kind of everybody looks to for emotional support, for emotional stability. The one who everyone feels okay when they see that this person is still smiling. But when you're that person, when that is the role you play, it can be hard sometimes to be honest with how you feel. Because you know that's what people want from you. That's what people need from you. So you don't... It's not even that it's like, I don't want to be vulnerable. It's you sometimes feel like you can't. And when Zidane learns about his true identity, because throughout his life, he has no idea really who he is or where he's from. And while he pretends that that's okay, it is something that does kind of gnaw away at him behind his veneer of smiles and jokes and trying to grab Garnet's ass. Ooh, soft. That's a fucking scene. And when he learns the truth, it horrifies him. As I said in the video, and I'll pretty much say anytime I talk about it, he has Goku's backstory of, you were supposed to come to this world and conquer it and destroy it and kill all the people, but you were essentially dropped on your head and you don't remember any of that shit, and the person that was supposed to be looking after you is a dickhead, and he's not doing his job either because he hates you and blah, 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 and the fact that you're not a monster and murdering everybody means you're a fucking failure. Now, when Goku heard that shit, essentially his response was, oh, well, that's stupid. Well, that's shitty. I would never want to hurt this place. These are my friends. My family is here. I love my world. And I'm going to protect it. Fuck you, buddy. And that was how I expected Zidane to react to all this. I really did. Just to, okay, like, I'm glad I know, and boy, that sucks. Like, there kind of went all my fantasies about me being an ancient prince or a king or something, but I have no desire to hurt this place. I have no desire to hurt these people. Sorry, I was just thinking of a minute-hour video. But still, these are my boys, and they're always with me. Gosh, I could quote so much of that video. I think it's so fucking funny. But that's kind of what I imagined Zidane was going to do. So the fact that instead of that, he gets incredibly depressed, and when his friends are trying to talk to him and cheer him up, he's pushing them away, and if I remember, it is both literally and metaphorically, and treating everyone like he's such a fucking asshole. I didn't like it. I got what they were going for, but for me, it didn't quite work. Because it felt so out of character for who Zidane has been and how I thought he would act, that it was jarring. And I didn't quite empathize with him there. The reason I bring that up is RWBY has a very similar story in Season 9. Because while there is a plot of Team RWBY falls at the end of Volume 8 when they were told not to, and they end up in the Ever After. There is a fairy tale that is mentioned in Volume 8, so this is foreshadowed. Like, I have no beef with this. About the girl who fell through the world. And, like, she fell, and then she found her own little hidey hole that she used to, and blah, 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 to, like, escape reality, but then she went back to reality, blah, blah, blah. That's a fairy tale that they mention, and that's what this is the Ever After. And it is Team RWBY trying to escape the Ever After. Like, cool, we're here. Is this the afterlife? No. Okay, thank God, we're not actually dead. That means we can go home. And then partway through, they meet John, who's been here way longer than they have because weird timey-wimey bullshit that I love, by the way. I don't know why. It doesn't make a lick of sense, but the whole thing is a fairy tale. It doesn't have to make sense, and I just kind of fuck with it. And the whole thing has this Alice in Wonderland vibe. Like, you have the curious cat. You're like, that's the Cheshire Cat. There's this, I don't know what bug it was. I think it was more of a grasshopper than a caterpillar. Who's doing the, like, who are you? When he's smoking hookah and shit. I'm like, that's my boy. You don't have the Red Queen, but you have the Red Prince, who was the Red King, and then he got, I haven't completely lost my place, by the way, with the whole Zidane thing. I'm getting to it. But, I know I'm not usual. I know I'm always disorganized, but it's 2 a.m. Please cut me some slack. But the Red King, who became the Red Prince, I'm like, okay, that's our Red Queen. Also, he's saying, off with their heads and shit. So we got the Queen of Hearts thing in there, too. There's a point where John's like, I'm late. I'm like, okay, I guess he's kind of the White Rabbit, and he has a big-ass white rabbit that he rides named Juniper, and I love that he named it Juniper. It's like that right there. There's a scene where RWBY is having tea with Neo, and she's got the Torchwick hat, so I guess that makes her the closest thing to the Mad Hatter. But anyway, there's a big Alice in Wonderland vibe, and like I said earlier in the video, I love that shit. I think the Ever After is dope. But the plot of this season is the 4 of us plus J-Boy are trying to... Oh yeah, and also the monsters that... The only way you can die in the Ever After is if you get eaten by these monsters, and those are the Jabberwockers. So we even got a fucking Jabberwocky in here. Jabberwock. Jabberwock is the name of the monster. Jabberwocky is the name of the poems, which was 'twas Brillig and the Slyly Toves and all that shit. And I use the word galumphing pretty often in my regular day-to-day life. It's one of my favorite ways to describe just movement. Lumbering is another good word for it, but I love galumphing. And yeah, it's from Jabberwocky. It's from Alice in Wonderland. Oh yeah, and the girl who was in the fairy tale, her name is Alex, which is pretty fucking similar to Alice. And then her brother, his name is Lewis. Like, oh, Lewis Carroll, the guy who fucking wrote Alice in Wonderland. It's great. I love it. The plot is they are trying to get back home. And all the Alice in Wonderland shenanigans that they get up to. The story is RWBY going through a Zidane arc. It is her learning what the fuck happened at the end of Volume 8. Penny died. Again. Cinder got the relic. Well, I can't say again because this is her first time getting a relic, but she got both of them. And no, I mean, I think that's kind of about it. That's really what she learned. But it's like, oh, I lost one of my best friends for the second time, and we lost both fucking relics. We got the people out, but are they even safe? Are they in a better place than they were before? did we do more harm than good? Because Atlas was maybe not great, but it was functioning before we got there. Ironwood had a plan before we got there. And there's also the fact that this is not something the characters know, but it's something we know. Salem wasn't going to Atlas next. She was going to Vacuo next. They only went to Atlas because they found out Team RWBY was going to Atlas with the lamp. So they actually did bring Salem there. So there's a non-zero chance that by the time Salem would have gone to Atlas in terms of her own plan, maybe Ironwood's OG plan of Amity Tower would have actually been working. It's kind of your fault. But that's what this season is. It is RWBY just kind of sitting and realizing, I have done so much fucking harm. There's a lot of people that I'm not able to save. I always wanted to be a hero. I always wanted to be a huntress because that's what was in the stories that my mom read me, and I wanted to be like my mom, like my Uncle Crow, like my dad, and I'm nothing like them because all I do is fail. And I was talking mad shit in the second half of season 6, and I was so confident and full of myself in season 7, and boy, do I not feel any of that shit now. And in season 8, I thought I had a plan, I thought I could do shit, and my plan got Salem half the relics. So, there's that. For a good chunk of the season, she doesn't have Crescent Rose, or as I was stupidly calling it throughout the season, C Rizzle, and I don't even know why. But I was like, yo, it's C Rizzle! Why did I say that? While I was fucking watching episodes. And, it has a very notable presence in the opening, not just like, oh, like it's RWBY and her weapon. Like, they just show it a lot as like this thing that is separate and distinct from her, and I really, really, really love the opening. And there's some great tracks in here. Like, there's a couple of times I was like, that's like some fucking swing music in this fight scene. Like, I think it was during the chess game. Was it during the chess game? Because I think it's during the chess game, and then while they're defending the paper town, is like, this is some like swing jazz music. This is sick. And I believe this is the first season where this happened, where Jeff Williams stepped down as composer. From what I understand, it's not like he was fired, it's not like anything happened, he's just like, I'm good, he retired. And his daughter, Casey Lee Williams, who you would probably know as the singer for not every song, I know there's some with a male vocalist, but like 99% of all the RWBY songs, is now the composer. And I don't think she's the only composer. I think there was someone else. It was like George Martinez was the other name. If I got that wrong, I sincerely apologize. I'm not going to sit here and say that, like, man, it's not like, wow, the new composers are so much better. But I don't feel like the quality in the music was lost at all, because the music in the season fucking slaps. And the opening, the song is really good. It's kind of been stuck in my head all day. And the visuals of it are... I haven't really talked about the openings that much. And I feel like I say that specifically a lot, or at least I think it a lot. Sometimes I feel like the visuals are almost a little too on point. Like, there's definitely parts in When It Falls, like, mirrors will shatter. And then it's Osmond and Goodwitch looking into a mirror as it fucking shatters. I'm like, do I love that, or do I hate that it's too on point? It's kind of both at the same time. But I feel like for Inside, which is the theme of Volume 9, they're on point in a way that really, really works. it's just really good. But again, getting back to my point that I keep getting off track of, because hey, it's Alice in Wonderland. I can get lost along the way, okay? It works. RWBY is going through her Zidane arc of, I'm going through a lot right now. And I'm usually the one that everyone looks to. Like, Blake, the only meaningful thing that Blake does in season 8 is have a conversation where she essentially says that to RWBY. He's like, you know what? Even though you're someone who's younger than me, I've looked up to you throughout our time together. You, like, your optimism, the fact that you never give up, the courage that you give us. You are our guiding light, our shining star. You are an incredibly important person to me. You are one of my best friends. Thank you for everything that you do for me and the rest of the team. And yeah, it really feels like it's a nice scene. And I remember watching it and thinking like, man, this is like the only meaningful conversation these two have had together since season 1. That's kind of bad, but the scene itself is nice. I like it. And now looking back on it, I'm like, man, that feels like that was kind of setting up season 9. And just how, boy, RWBY does not handle that pressure well. At least, not anymore. Not after all of these failures. And she breaks. You know, at first, it's just kind of a more dour mood and not really putting up with the jokes or the bullshit. And then, when they meet the caterpillar, again, I use maybe more of like a grasshopper. I'm going to call him the caterpillar. It's Alice in Wonderland. We know what the fuck he's supposed to be. And he does his hookah smoke shit, and it affects all 4 members of Team RWBY because John's not there yet. He's like, okay, what this does, and this is like the leaves of the tree. When you ingest it, whether through hookah smoke, eating a leaf, or through sipping tea, which hopefully I'll get to the fucking tea scene, that's easily my favorite moment of the season. That might be my favorite moment of the whole show. Because, oh wow. It can trigger a metamorphosis. You have to ask yourself, who am I and who do I want to be? And you will get to become that. In the hookah smoke scene, all 4 of the members of Team RWBY see their past selves, and it's specifically the OG, like, Season 1 designs in the new art style. And I was looking at it and going, boy, I hate this, because I like these designs so much more than what we have. And it's not that I completely hate the new designs, although I still don't really like Weiss's. But Yang is not that different. I like Blake's. And I really do like RWBY's new haircut. I think it just fits her really well. But seeing the OG designs, I'm like, boy, I feel so nostalgic for this. I think this looks a lot better. And I remember, like, re-watching the openings. I think this was last week, like, before I had watched volumes 8 and 9. And as I was watching all the openings, I was like, man, I miss these old designs. Like, as soon as I was listening to, like, This Will Be the Day, I was like, fuck. This is nostalgia already. This was simpler times and shit. But anyways, everyone's OG designs are talking to them. And essentially, Weiss is saying, hey, why don't you just go and be a Schnee? Why do you have to be a huntress? You know, you have the Schnee name. You have the Schnee wealth. Isn't that better? And Weiss rejecting that and saying, no, because I'm more than just my name. I think she said the granddaughter of a hero, and I don't know if I've ever actually heard her talk about her grandparents. Like, I think there's maybe a part where she mentions that sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't super remember it. But she talks about, like, yeah, like, that's something I'm very proud of. I'm not proud to be my father's daughter, but it's still an important part of me that I wouldn't want to hide from. I am more than a Schnee. I am a huntress. You have Blake's self saying, why do you want to be a faunus? Wouldn't you rather be a regular human girl? Wouldn't you rather just be a cat? Either one. You don't have to deal with the discrimination and the trauma and the baggage and the white fang and all of that bullshit. You can just be Blake. And Blake's response to that is, but both of those are Blake. I'm not myself without my human side, so I can't just be a cat. And I'm not me without my cat side, so I can't just be a human. A faunus is what I am. All of that baggage, all of that trauma, all of that bullshit that I have endured has made me who I am and led me here. I am more than a faunus. I am a huntress. And then you've got Yang, whose past self is like, I have 2 hands. I'm sorry, I think that scared Bobbin a little bit. He kind of sat up suddenly. She's like, I have 2 hands. I'm whole. Don't you want that, Yang? Don't you want to be whole again? And Yang saying, I like that I'm not whole. Because even though I'm damaged, even though part of me is missing, I've been able to fill that void with other things. You know, I have filled it with humor. I've filled it with, like, dumb shit. I've also filled that hole with my friends, with my family. I'm more than just a broken warrior. I'm a fucking huntress. And then you have RWBY, who has no bravado, has no argument. When her OG, almost said Gen 1, her OG Volume 1 design is saying, you're dog shit. Do you have any idea how spectacularly you failed? Do you remember when you were a kid? When we were kids and we thought we could do this? Now we can't. Why can't you? Are you really cut out for this? Do you still think you, Ruby Rose, can be a huntress and she can't say a word? She is quiet. She is devastated. Because in her heart, which is what she's talking to, everything out of that RWBY's mouth is 100% the truth. And the whole thing gets interrupted because the Curious Cat, I'm just going to call it the Cheshire Cat. The Cheshire Cat interrupts, is like, hey, this is super dangerous. I don't want you guys getting hurt, blah, 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 blah. But while the other 3 feel a lot more invigorated of like, yeah, you know, we were able to overcome this. And granted, they're still small because they're small because they were used as chess pieces in a fucking game with the Red Prince, and it's Wonderland bullshit. And I adore Wonderland bullshit. And the fact that throughout the season, Weiss just can't come to grips with Wonderland bullshit and is just kind of mumbling to herself like, yeah, but if this is the thing and that's the thing, but that doesn't make sense. But I'm in a fairy tale, so it doesn't have to make sense. But the fact that doesn't make sense. Pisses me right the fuck off. I think it's hilarious. The whole thing is they're trying to get to the tree, but they can't get to the tree. Like, literally they can't, because if you walk towards it, you'll walk towards it, and then you'll just kind of keep walking this spatial loop. You could go anywhere else, but you can't go straight to the tree. And there's a scene where Weiss gets really pissed, and she just throws a rock, and then it comes back and hits her and knocks her out, and I was like, this is amazing. This is fucking funny. Season 9 is great. And I'm supposed to talk about RWBY, but I'm going to talk about everyone else here while I'm at it. Blake gets to do things this season. She is the one who in the very early parts are like, okay, I think I know where we are because I know this fairy tale. Now, we all know this fairy tale is a very popular fairy tale, but this one I really liked. Favorite fairy tale, and this is what happened, so we gotta do this, and this is what happened, so now we kind of gotta do this, and she's essentially kind of the narrator and the driving force plot-wise in the first few episodes, at least until I meet the cat, and the cat really helps them too, and I liked that. This is also the season where she and Yang finally get together, and I've been very critical of it in the past few seasons, and I stand by it. Because I really don't think their relationship is that well built up in the earlier seasons. Because they don't have a lot of chemistry together. Because there's not a lot of scenes of them together. And the two of them hanging out and spending time together. I remember in season 7, there's a scene where they're kind of flirting a bit. Like, yeah, Team Funky invited us to go dancing. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to get to see these two on an honest-to-God date. And at this point, like, I know what's going to happen, I just don't know when. I know the show is trying to build up to it. But please, for the love of these two brothers Grimm, show me them interacting and having them, like, having great chemistry. Because I want to love this romance. I want to root for this romance. But give me something to actually root for, and then you just don't see that shit like that. But the bridge scene, though, of we actually have to, as Yang says, oh shit, you know, I'm afraid to take the next step and whatnot. It's like, because again, Wonderland bullshit, we could do this. The two of you are separated, and you have to say all the things that you've left unsaid. Get all your secrets out so you can meet in the middle. And I'm not really doing it justice, but I remember watching it and thinking, this is actually a really clever idea, and I like this a lot. This is really fun. This is really creative. And all just the shit they're saying to each other. I'm like, this is sweet. I do like this. I don't hate the idea of Blake and Yang as a couple. I just don't think it was well executed throughout the show's run. But I think the bridge scene did a lot to sell me on it more. It's like, okay, I can buy this. Now, please do, now that you guys are a couple, make me still root for this couple. I want to see them flirt with each other. I want to see them go on dates. I do want to see them spend time together and see how this works as a couple. We don't get a lot of that in Volume 9, and I'm not going to fault Volume 9 for that, because, boy, there's a lot of other shit going on. Which is as good a segue as any. I know I've said in previous videos that I heard that RWBY gets really homophobic in Volume 9, and I'm so happy to report that that is grossly exaggerated. There is a scene where she does yell at them. Like I said, this is a Dane arc. We're all coming back to it. What happens is they meet John, who is a character in the fairy tale. He is the Rusted Knight, because timey-wimey fairy tale bullshit, despite being the last to fall, he's been there a long fucking time. Like, John has a beard, his voice is a lot deeper, Weiss is thirsting after him, which was pretty funny. I can't say unexpected, because I saw, like, that happened. I was like, I kind of wish I didn't know that, but it's honestly only for, like, 2 seconds. But it's still kind of funny. But, John found Crescent Rose, and he gives it back to her. And while Ruby takes it, she's very, very hesitant to do so. You can see it in her eyes and her expression that, oh yay, it's back. Oh god, it's back. And there's a scene before that, when they're trying to get all the shit for the potion to make her friends unsmall, where she's talking to this blacksmith. Fuck, I love the blacksmith so much. The idea of, because the blacksmith is the tree, which again is all about the balance of life and death. It's about the cycle. It's about creation. And it's about taking who you are and turning who you are into who you want to be. And the metaphor of that being a forge and how you are like refined and purified in the fire is so fucking cool. And I love that so much. God, I love Volume 9. Spoiler, this is my favorite volume and it's not even close. And there's that part of my brain that goes, is that recency bias? It might be recency bias, but I'm also like, I have nothing bad to say about it. The only thing about Volume 9 that makes me go, is why is Neo's semblance so much stronger now than it was before? And I mean, I get it, weird fairy tale Wonderland bullshit, but even for Fairyland Wondertale, sure, we'll go with that. Even for Fairyland Wondertale bullshit, it kind of makes no fucking sense. But it also leads to some really cool, fun shit. And it is Fairyland Wondertale shit, so I don't hate it. And that's literally my entire list of complaints with Volume 9. It's the least bad. And I don't mean that in a way of saying, well, it's the least bad, but it still sucks. Like, no, it is the least bad. And it's so good. It's my favorite season. Fuck. That's why I can't go to sleep without talking about it. And it's been 47 minutes, so it's what, like 2:30 now? I'm not even close to done. Anyways, the blacksmith. A really cool fucking idea, and I love it. But as Ruby is talking to the blacksmith is talking about all the different weapons. And essentially, each weapon here is another person you could be. And about laying down your burden and taking the burden of somebody else, and that's how you become somebody else. And like, I don't remember exactly what the line was at the end of the season, but it was it's like, who do you want to be? Do you want to be the kind of person who can lay your burden down and not deal with it, or do you want to be the kind of person that is strong enough to bear it? It's something really close to that. I loved it. There's a lot of ums in this. I'm getting distracted again, but I have to talk about this scene because I should have talked about it a little bit earlier. But in the blacksmith scene, Ruby sees one of Penny's weapons, one of her like jade swords. And there's a scene earlier in the season where a talking raccoon and I believe a purple wagon loaded with junk, because Fairyland Wondertale, is hawking items. And one of the items is, I think it was disguised as a stuffed animal and turned out to be Penny's sword, and Ruby ends up taking it. And to get an audience with the Red Prince for his birthday, they have to give a present. And Ruby offers that sword. And I remember saying in season 3, man, I really want to see her take Penny's sword and do something with it, because I love that idea of having a memento of your friend. And boy, does season 9 deliver on that. Does she use the sword in combat? No. But, excuse me. Not only, like, it has that personal significance to her, but she gives this monologue about, this is why this weapon is so special. This isn't just a sword. This is the sword of the greatest warrior. You know, of someone who inspired and gave hope. And I don't remember exactly what she says. I know it was something at the end was like to do with the stars. I know I said earlier that the voice acting in this season is really good, and RWBY's in particular is phenomenal and is the best it's ever been. I deadass cried during that scene. I wasn't full on weeping, but I cried. And that is because she delivered on that monologue. It was beautifully written, and it was beautifully fucking acted. And then right after, the two guys that they're talking to are like full on crying and shit. And I'm like, I now feel a little mocked for tearing up at this, but you know what? You got me. You can make fun of me for it. It was beautiful. Sincerely. This whole fucking season was beautiful. But Crescent Rose is RWBY's burden. And she doesn't want to carry it anymore. And when the village is being attacked by Jabberwockers, who are essentially Neo's goons in this volume, which means they're specifically after RWBY, they are attacking the village where RWBY's at. And John is defending the village. The rest of the team, so I guess the RWBY, is defending the village. RWBY's not. And it's not that she's just standing there like, I don't care, I don't want to do this. She's holding Crescent Rose like in its sniper rifle form, but isn't fighting. She's just not able to. And I know at one point she drops it. And because they're distracted with the Jabberwockers, the paper people are able to all kill themselves so they can go ascend. Again, this is really fucked up. And John unloads on RWBY. He's like, you know, this is your fault. I think what he says is, okay, I know that you don't care about these people the way that I do, but the least you can do is actually fight and protect your friends. And he shoves Crescent Rose back into her hands, and she just drops it. She drops it, steps back, and that's the moment where everyone just kind of stops and goes, oh, RWBY's not okay. I thought she was fine. Not great. Probably no one's great. But I thought she was okay. Do you need to talk? And she goes, oh, okay, so this is a couple different scenes. I mean, it's one scene, but the conversation starts. I don't remember exactly what happens, but Blake asks RWBY, what do you think of this? And RWBY kind of snaps a little bit. It's like, why do you care? Like, who cares what I think? I mean, I know I'm the leader of the team, but there's no reason for me to be the leader of the team. I don't always have to have an opinion on things. I don't always have to have the answers to things, okay? And then the thing with John happens, and then that's when everyone is like, oh, okay, something's wrong. And she goes off about like her failures, how she sees herself, the issues she's having, and that's when the homophobic moment is, because it's like during this rant, she just looks at Blake and Yang. It's like, oh, we're so happy for you, by the way. You know, the fact that you guys are here and you get to work out your relationship, you know, that's just great. I'm so happy. It is not at all come across as, wow, you two are lesbians, and it's disgusting. And it is far, far more of a, I'm sorry that I'm so far down my rabbit hole, wow, it's Wonderland, of my mental breakdown and existential crisis and possible suicidal thoughts, that I didn't stop to be happy for you making out. Sorry. It's like, is she being an asshole? Yes, but I get it. And to me, what really separates it from Zidane is when I was playing Final Fantasy IX, I was thinking to myself, A, I really don't care for this backstory. I just didn't find it that interesting, personally. But two, excuse me, the way he's acting, to me, just doesn't compute with the person he is and the story around him. It just feels wrong, and it just feels off. But while I was watching Volume 9, everything RWBY was saying about the team's performance and her performance as its leader is stuff that I agree with. It's things that I have myself said over these videos about, like, no, especially in Season 6. Because when she's like, people bigger than you have stood in our way and they failed, or we haven't needed adults to bail us. I was like, hun, I'm gonna get the list. Here's the list of the people who stood in your way and didn't fail. And all the times you needed someone to bail your ass out. You were getting way too big for your britches. You are way too entitled. You need to stop. Something I'm going to say in Season 8, or when I talk about Season 8, because I'm doing this out of order, is there's times where Season 8 feels like an apology for the writing in Season 6 and Season 7, and sometimes it feels like a genuine apology, and sometimes it feels like a very half-hearted, very snide apology. Season 9 feels like a very sincere apology and genuine self-reflection. And it makes sense in context. And I feel like this reflection has been built up through the past few seasons. And my issues with them are not only echoed, but serve the plot, like serve the actual story. And that's kind of why I say, boy, I don't know if this season would be as good if those previous seasons weren't dog shit. I can't say Season 7's dog shit. I can say Team RWBY was dog shit in it, though, because the rest of Season 7 is good shit. But, sorry. No, the super itchy. Oh, boy, that was unpleasant. RWBY blows up at her friends, and then she dips. And then she finds herself at Neapolitan's tea party. And there's a whole group of people there. Some familiar faces. Torchwick. And boy, was I happy to see Torchwick. Boy, was I happy to hear his voice again. That was lovely. Torchwick, Ozpin, not Oscar, although he does show up later, but Ozpin, Ironwood, Leo, Pyrrha, Penny, who are all people who have died. And the reason I have that question mark at the end is because I'm not sure about Ironwood. Because if I remember correctly, like, Winter deflected his blast and he was injured, but when Cinder and Salem were there, he, like, got up and pointed the gun, but he didn't pull the trigger. And I don't know if that was supposed to be because he died. To me, I saw it as he accepted the futility of the situation and just sort of gave up. Oh, Clover was there too. Thank you. That was the other person. I don't know if Ironwood is dead. Everyone else there is people that have died. And I honestly think the reason Ironwood is there is not because he's dead, but because Neapolitan genuinely doesn't know. Because she didn't see Penny die the second time, and Penny even says, I died in Atlas, didn't I? Because even Neo's like, I don't know if she did. I'm just kind of making an educated guess that she and Ironwood did. So they're going to be here at your party, Little Red. So let's go. And yeah, they're all there to guilt trip RWBY, and boy, it's fucking working. Although RWBY does have a moment where she's just not taking Neo shit. This is for Torchwick? Really? That's what this is all about? I'm not gonna apologize for that. I didn't even do that. He got eaten by a fucking bird. How is this my fault? No. Which I appreciated. That even in this moment, she's just not giving a shit. She's gone from purity to defiance. I respect it here. I thought that was really justified. To me, the one misstep here is not even a misstep, which is something I have to give it credit for. Because I was watching it and I was thinking, boy, I can't wait for Summer Rose to show up here. But then also it's, okay, Neo is the one making the illusions, and she has no idea who the fuck Summer Rose is or what she looks like. So she wouldn't actually be able to make Summer Rose. And as much as I would have loved to see what that kind of shit would do, which we kind of get later anyway, so it all works, it would have broken my immersion, because I wouldn't be thinking, wow, what an emotional scene. I'd be thinking, how the fuck does Neo know about this? This makes no damn sense. So I have to bring that up, and it makes sense and it's good. Also, we get Neapolitan dialogue. We get it in season 8 when she's texting Cinder. And I was like, I remember watching that and I was like, wait, did she text Cinder? I have to rewind this. Is that Neapolitan dialogue? For the first time in the show? I think that is! That's pretty fucking neat. I will take that. And here, it's essentially she is speaking through Torchwick, Penny, Pyrrha, all that shit. So I was like, okay, this is Neo dialogue without having her talk. It's a fun way to get around this. There's also the part of me that goes, even in a fairy tale world where you've been super overpowered and shit, you still can't talk. That's kind of funny. And then she gets possessed by the cat. And then the cat starts talking, and it's using the cat's voice. And there's a part of me that was thinking, I really wanted the cat to possess her and not be able to talk. That would have been really fucking funny. But anyways, what Neo says to RWBY through her meat puppets, that's less meat puppet, it's more illusion zombies. I still don't understand how her power works, by the way. Because mostly she uses it to transform herself. So it's like, okay, it's a disguise. But here it's also doing like different shit. Like she's essentially summoning clones that can transform into things. But it's not just transformation. It's I can make like a substitution jutsu essentially. And it's not really a transformation ability. Because it's not just, oh, I transformed into the log to get out of a situation. It's, no, like, the thing of me fucking shattered like glass, and now I'm making my escape. But she doesn't just make people see shit, because that's what Emerald does. And I don't think we've seen two semblances that are the same. And the closest is like Harriet and RWBY, because they're both speed-based, but they still work very fucking differently. So I still don't really know how Neo Sembi works. Like, I get it, but then when I actually think about how it works like that, I don't know if this really makes a lot of sense. But it's cool, and I like my parasol-wielding ice cream lady, so I'm not gonna question it that much, but I can't help it. I need something to complain about in the season, okay? Like, it's so good, I don't have enough shit to talk. I'm used to talking shit on RWBY, and I like the show. I genuinely do. I feel like I've said, I don't know if I can say I've said more good than bad, because I've said a lot in season 6, but I hope this is fixing that. But Neo's plan. I want to break Little Red. I don't want to just kill her. I want her to break. And I want her to deliver the final blow. And this episode was another one with a content warning. As Neo prepares magical tree leaf tea. It's like you can ingest it, and like essentially the plan is I am going to break her so thoroughly that she doesn't want to be Ruby Rose anymore. And then I want her to drink the tea herself. So she will... Ruby will kill Ruby Rose. She can be whoever the fuck she wants to be after that. I don't really care. But I want this to happen. And as her friends come in to save her, and their little mouse friend, who they name Little, because he's a little small boy, and I don't know, maybe that's supposed to be a Stuart Little reference, gets fucking killed because Neo just steps on him. And I actually rewound it, I was like, did that just fucking happen? Yeah, it did, holy shit. And Ruby, who earlier told him, why are you still with me? Please go away, because if you're with me, you are going to die. I'm sorry, it's just what the fuck happens. That happens, and she's so horrified. And after all of her doubt and her failures and her inability to handle and bear her burden, seeing one more person die breaks her. Bless you. And what is probably my favorite moment of the show, she willingly drinks the tea. The reason that this is my favorite moment is because, it sounds really fucking bad, is because I wanted to see her drink it. And I do not at all mean that to say, wow, I really wanted to see the main character try and fucking kill herself. But it was as I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, this is a no going back moment for the show and for the character. Even if she stays herself, that's a really, really big fucking deal. You can use whatever allegory or metaphor or fairy wonder tale land bullshit you want to dress it up. But Ruby Rose attempted suicide. She even says, I don't want to be me anymore, before she does it. If that is not a suicide attempt, I don't know what is. And I know a thing or two about suicide attempts. The reason it's my favorite moment in the show, it's not a moment that made me cry. To this point, there have been 3. And I'll admit, that's 3 more than I was expecting from RWBY. It's Ruby and Ruby and Yang being reunited in Volume 5 and them hugging. And it is a reunion as well between Ruby and Weiss. But specifically just the 2 sisters hugging, it made me tear up. In Season 8, it is after Penny dies and she's in that dreamscape with Winter. That made me cry. And as I said earlier, Ruby giving essentially Penny's eulogy. That got me too. But even though those are moments that actually made me cry, none of them resonated with me the way that this one did. And this moment is why I couldn't go to sleep. Not because I was having nightmares or anything like that, but it's like this was I'm not going to sleep until I talk about this moment. Because it hit me harder than the scenes that made me cry. it resonated with me on such a personal level, in a way that RWBY, both the show and the character, in ways I never expected either of them to. As someone who has survived suicide attempts, and I do say that intending it to be plural, there's a myriad of emotions that I've experienced afterwards. I don't want to say myriad. That makes it sound like there's a whole fuck ton. Where for me, it's 4 that I can really think of. The first is fear. It is that sense of terror at myself. And again, I am speaking for myself and my own experiences. I don't mean to speak for anyone else. But the first time it happened, I felt scared of knowing, oh, it's that bad. Oh, I actually tried. I actually acted upon it. Like, I've had these thoughts for a long, long time. I didn't ever do anything. I've thought about it a lot. I've come close to acting on it, but I always stopped myself. And this time I didn't. It's a moment where you realize you can sink lower than you've ever sank before. Like, one of my favorite lines in Celeste is Madeline talking to Badeline about like how, far we've fallen. It's like, but I can keep digging. And it's that moment where you realize, oh, I can't anymore. This is as low as it goes. And I thought I hit my lowest, before. Oh, there's a new level. It's terrifying. And I feel like I saw that in RWBY. It's specifically after she drinks. Because again, you don't feel these emotions during. It's all after. The next emotion for me is shame. Where once the fear has kind of worn off of, oh God, I'm actually capable of that. Okay. You just feel so ashamed that you actually did it. You're not scared of it anymore. You're just upset that it happened. You're so frustrated at yourself, not because it didn't work, but because you gave up. And that's something that no matter what happens to you in the future, you will never forget. The fact that you gave up. It's a really fucked up thing to think about. And I saw that in RWBY. The next emotion is the frustration at the futility of it. I've hit my lowest, clearly. I did not feel like I had any other options that were going to work. So I used my last one. And even that didn't work. And there's almost something funny to it. Like, you remember the ending of Joker? If you haven't seen it, obviously you wouldn't remember it. Where this isn't really spoilers for anything that happens in that movie. It's just a line of dialogue where our main man, Arthur, is talking to this woman, and he's kind of laughing to himself. He's like, oh, what's the joke? What are you laughing? He's like, no, you wouldn't get it. I kind of know what that is. It's a different emotion, very different shit, but that there's something really darkly funny about I can't even do this right. Huh. Like, all the things I failed at, why not add one more to the list? And I feel like I also saw that frustration in RWBY. And the last emotion is the acceptance that I survived. I survived something that maybe I shouldn't have, and that I didn't want to. But I did anyway. Obviously, things aren't going to get better at rock bottom. The only way is up. Things aren't going to get better if I don't move, so the only way is forward. If you're not strong enough, if you're not enough to bear that burden, you have to become someone who will, or find people that will help you shoulder it. And I definitely saw that in Ruby Rose. This volume, to me, is really good because of how much I like Alice in Wonderland. I really enjoy that shit. I think it's a lot of fun. This season is really good because it strips away a lot of the fat. It strips away all these side characters. It strips away all of the really cool, elaborate fights. Not all of them, there's still some. It strips away all of the lore and the plot. Again, there's no relics, there's no Salem, there's no Cinder. It's just these 4 girls trying their best. And one who's at the end of her rope and fucking reaches the end of the rope. But the reason it's my favorite is because it hit me in a place that very, very few things truly have. It reminded me of some of my darkest times, and genuinely some of the worst emotions I have ever felt. And it's weird to say that I'm really glad it did, because it's the kind of thing that reminds me of where I was 2 years ago and where I am now. Is it where I want to be? No. Am I even necessarily closer than where I was 2 years ago? Maybe not. But when there was nowhere to go but up, I went up. I moved forward. And I know there's not everyone gets to say that. My fucking nephew didn't. I really didn't expect to fall in love with Volume 9 the way I did. I really didn't expect this complete redemption of the show and of its lead character. But that episode with Ruby at the Forge, well, she's not really, she's still at the Forge, and her having that conversation, and the initial response is, oh, like, I'm still here. I don't remember exactly how she said it or like how it was written, but what it came across to me was, I'm going to be honest, when I drank the tea, I kind of thought that was it. I didn't think I would still be me for a little bit. I thought I was done with that. And I felt that fear and that shame and that frustration throughout this scene. And she's told, like, all right, but you can be anyone you want now. Who do you want to be? And there's a scene where she sees Summer Rose's weapon and gets this short little, like, backstory cutscene about Summer going on that final mission, and she left with Raven, and there was things that she didn't tell her family before she went, and I'm thinking to myself, oh fuck, I actually really want to see where all this goes. I'm so invested in this. What the fuck? Where is Summer Rose? Because there is a non-zero chance that she is still alive, and oh boy, is that gonna be some shit when that reveal happens. I still think she's the Summer Maiden. That might be specifically what she was sent to do. It's, we know where she is. You have to go kill her. You have to take her power. And then you have to go into hiding to make sure that Salem doesn't get the relic. That's kind of what I'm assuming at this point. It is possible that she's already dead and RWBY is the Summer Maiden and just doesn't know it yet. Excuse me. Anyways, I am super fucking excited for the Summer Rose shit. But RWBY sees it and is like, huh, that, you know, Mom failed too. Salem's still out there. Mom didn't come back. Maybe that was part of the plan, I don't know, but people do fail. It is a part of life. You have to learn to deal with it. And it's not easy. It's really, really not. But you can't let your failure consume you, and you can't let it define you. And the words of her mother saying, I love you just the way you are ringing in her head. And then RWBY sees one weapon that really catches her attention. And of course it's Crescent Rose. Because this is when that final emotion kicked in of that I survived the end of my life. And I need to be better. To make sure I don't hit this low again. And that's not a lesson I learned my first time. But it is a lesson I learned. And then she comes back. And then that's when you get Red Like Roses Part 3, which is a thing that I knew happened. I didn't hear the song. It's like, I don't want to hear the song. I want to save it for context, and I think it's beautiful. I absolutely love it. I don't know if I like it as much as 1 or 2, but that's not a, oh, it's just not as good, it sucks, and more of a, I really love 1 and 2. But I feel like in time I'm gonna like it. I know there's a part in at least the extended version, I don't remember if this played in the episode, where there's a line that gets repeated a couple times near the end of, I'm the one that inspired the fairy tale. And I'm like, that actually goes kind of hard. I kind of fuck with that. Brain stop for a second. Red Like Roses Part 3 happens. They fight the cat to kick the cat's ass, and then it gets devoured by Jabberwockies. There's plot shit about how this is where the two Grimm brothers first existed, and they made the cat, and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's interesting shit. It's good shit. It's not why I love the season, so I don't really want to talk about it. Neapolitan gets essentially the cat purged from her system, and she's not able to go back to Remnant because she doesn't have any attachments to it. But she ingests the flower, and you don't see her conversation in the forge. Maybe in the forge she can actually talk, I don't know. But the implication is she's talking to the tree as well. And she's going to come out of that. Maybe as Neapolitan, maybe as someone completely different, maybe as Neo 2.0. She's a Neo. So I don't think we've seen the last of the parasol toting ice cream flavored lass. I don't know when we'll see her again, but I think we will. That's kind of it. You know, everyone is able to go home and blah, blah, blah. Or they don't go home, they go to when they are needed most. They end up in Vacuo. And that's how the season ends. In terms of where I think the show was going, because now I'm caught up, so now I can actually speculate. I am assuming Vacuo and Shade Academy are going to be 1 to 2 seasons. Beacon was 3 seasons, but that also kind of includes season 1 being the whole establishing season. So you can really say the Vital Festival is essentially 2 seasons. So there's only 1 season of the tournament, but a lot of season 2 is people gathering and Cinder doing shit and blah, blah, blah. Mistral is 1 season of getting there and then 1 season of shit happening. Atlas is 1 season of getting there and 2 seasons of shit happening. This was our season of getting there, and it is the only season of getting there that I have liked, because I don't like season 4, and I think season 6 is fucking terrible. So Vacuo, let's say 1 to 2 seasons. Then we're going to have to do the Beacon Relic. So let's say a season of getting back to Vale, a season of Beacon. And either that will be the end or there will be 1 final season. So I would say at minimum a season of Vacuo, a season of getting back to Vale, Vale again for the finale, or 2 of Vacuo. So 3 at the minimum, 5 at the max. So anywhere from 12 to 14? My understanding is that it was more or less a volume a year until volume 9, where it then took 2 years to make it. I know there are some theories that it was like budget cuts or because they were working on other projects like the DC crossovers, which I haven't seen yet, and I probably will. I've heard they're terrible, so I'm kind of looking forward to them, but also, like, season 9 was such a good ending. Like, it felt like such a breath of fresh air, too. I was like, I kind of don't want to ruin this good feeling with shit seasons. And even talking about season 8, like, I don't hate season 8. I think it's fine. I would much rather end on a season 9 video, but this is recorded. I'm just gonna upload it and even say in the description, I'll do the season 8 video. I just had to get this one out of my system, you know? Sorry, I think I have, like, arthritis in my knee. It's fucking stiff. Also, this is, what, an hour and a half, so I started at, like, what, 1:47? Fuck, what time is it? Like, 3:15 or some shit? I might hate myself in the morning. Anyways, I've also heard that partly the reason it took a couple years was because of COVID and COVID shit, which is fully understandable. And I say that because I don't know if Volume 10 is coming out in 2024. On the one hand, I really hope it is, so I can get more RWBY. Because as critical as I've been of it, and oh boy, I've been critical of a lot of it, I do like it. I have enjoyed it. I wouldn't have watched 9 seasons and 116 episodes over November and then December 1st. So basically just November. If I didn't like it, if I didn't enjoy it. But also, it's like, man, this was such a good ending. Like, not in terms of like an ending, but like this was so fucking good. I want more. I now need more. So I hope it comes out next year. But if getting that extra time can lead to a season this good, I'm willing to wait that extra time for better quality, you know? Do I have anything else I really want to say about season 9? I said the intro was great. Didn't say really much about the fights. I think the fights are mostly kind of okay. Although I do really like the chess game, and again, like that's okay, to play this game of chess, your friends have to turn into my chess pieces, and I'm gonna be cheating throughout the game and shit, and then I'm gonna whine like a petulant child because you beat me even though I was cheating. Like, yeah, this feels like something straight out of Wonderland. This is awesome. I think that's really it. So, this isn't gonna be the last RWBY video, because it is coming out before Volume 8. Whoops. But I needed to say the shit I wanted to say about it, so hopefully now at 3+ a.m. I can sleep. I hope you're not watching this at 3 a.m. I hope, unlike me, you're able to sleep, you're able to rest well tonight. When you do watch it, if you do, I hope you're having a fantastic day, or afternoon, or evening, whatever time it is. This was the best season of the show. This is one of the best things I've seen this year. And I'm so glad I decided to do this RWBY marathon, because this season alone was worth it. And maybe it still doesn't top the red trailer. That's the only other thing that I'm like, man, I don't know if the red trailer might have finally been fucking topped. It's good shit.